Hello, my name is Sean Lee, and today we're going to be taking a deeper look into the Yuan Dynasty of China. My initial perceptions of the Yuan Dynasty were pretty positive overall, I would say. I knew about how ruthless militarily the Mongols were, but how inclusive and supportive of new ideas they were to advance themselves. They were not just stuck on methods, but really cared about the ends more than the methods themselves. So they would do whatever it took to grow and enrich themselves.
What are some of the most significant insights you gained through writing this?
I didn't quite, I learned a lot more about China seemed to be kind of different than a lot of the other areas the Mongols conquered because it had so much of a long history and it was so culturally rich before the Mongols ever got there compared to, like, the Mongols in Kazakhstan, for example. Kazakh culture wasn't that much different than Mongol culture. It was a steppe culture, but China was a lot more of an entrenched hard culture. And, they put in a class system that had Mongols at the top, other Asians in second tier, Northern Chinese third tier, and then the fourth tier Southern Chinese. I didn't realize how basically excluding Chinese people from their operations of their own government allowed them to explore more artistic and scientific pursuits rather than focusing on running their own country. So, things like, let's see, what were some of the things that the Mongols did? Before the Mongols came, the merchant class was very frowned upon in China, from what I'm gathering. Being a merchant was not respected, and that was the same in Rome, actually. Uh, to be someone that did business in Roman society was, if you called yourself a merchant, it was not very virtuous. Merchants were not looked at very positively. But with the Mongols, because the Chinese people themselves were not as involved in the government, they were the perception of merchants and growth and interconnectedness with the rest of the world changed a lot, and in a way that I don't think would have happened if the Mongols had not have taken over. I think the Chinese would have continued to be a little more isolationist. I was also pretty surprised, not surprised, but I learned a lot more about militarily how open the Mongols were to changing their tactics. With most of the conquering that the Mongols did, its armies comprised nothing of men on horses using maneuver warfare in open battlefields. But when they got down to southern China and there's all these deltas and rivers and stuff, think Vietnam. You can't roll up in there with horses. You've got to get much more serious about your navy, much more serious about guerrilla warfare style of fighting. So basically, to sum it up, the obstacles that presented themselves to the Mongols in China and the way that they adapted to overcome these obstacles was something that was pretty insightful.
Did you have any changes in your views and perspectives?
I would say that I looked at the Mongol occupation or the Yuan dynasty in China as more of just that, like an occupation. You had Chinese culture for thousands of years. The Mongols came in, kind of their history stopped while they were there, and then continued after they were gone. But now I look at the Yuan dynasty is more of a continuation of Chinese culture, and really it gave China a chance to kind of take a break from focusing on ruling and spending all their efforts on consolidation of power and ruling, but rather, since they got that taken out of their hands, they no longer control their own country technically, they're able to focus on other pursuits. So I look at the opportunities that the Chinese people could focus on rather than what they had been focusing on, in the continuing evolution of Chinese culture, and how much the Mongols gave them the opportunity to grow in other areas.
Did this project deepen your appreciation of dynastic China's place in world history?
Definitely. Most of my knowledge before, other than a little bit of knowledge into the Mongol Empire, was, very Western centric, and now I feel like I can relate China better to somewhere like Rome, or today like the United States. So it made me want to learn more, and it made me want to learn more about the Mongol Empire and how, in each section of the Mongol Empire after the death of Genghis Khan, how things were approached compared to as they were in China.